Fresh off the release of the Chaos Dwarfs in April, we now have quite a helpful glimpse at the immediate future of Warhammer 3 and what will be going down over the next 12 months or so. The roadmap is here, and I am here to help break it down. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back on the hype train as we discuss gameplay updates, DLC, and perhaps most importantly, free updates that are designed to get this behemoth of a campaign in even better shape as we chug along. What you are looking at on screen currently is every major release planned for the next year, with the minor panels representing patches and free updates, while the major panels represent DLC and legacy overhauls, which is the new phrasing for old world reworks. If you remember, Creative Assembly has told us that DLC and free DLC will look different in Immortal Empires, that they will be moving away from two race lord packs to an extent, and it appears that is still very much true. Patch 3.1 should be just on the horizon. Don't believe we will have long to wait on that front, and with it, we can expect some bug squashing, general improvements, and a Chaos Dwarfs endgame event, similar to Vermintide or the biggest WoW, which could actually be quite terrifying, if you consider how powerful their late game armies are, potentially even more dangerous in top tier Chaos stacks due to their artillery. Being blown up by Dreadquakes and Magma Cannons, probably not too fun, but could be quite the challenge. But obviously what interests me on that front are improvements to campaign gameplay, particularly when it comes to AI behavior. As I highlighted recently in my Sieges Are a Disaster video, I have a serious problem with how many AI factions behave on the campaign map, how they abuse Fog of War to snipe undefended settlements and generally behave like sniveling cowards going after the minor stuff, not fighting any important battles, avoiding those open field scenarios, consistently fleeing against evenly matched forces, which is a huge no-no when you see Skarbrand or Kaon approaching logistics and warfare like Night Goblins or Rat Men. You don't want the Bringer of the End Times behaving like little piss ants, and it's a core facet of why campaign gameplay is simply less fun for me in Warhammer 3 than it was in Warhammer 2, at least up to this point. You can add all the content in the world, but if the core gameplay loop is monotonous, repetitive, and unengaging, if the AI just won't ever fight you, you're just putting whipped cream and cherries on a turd, and that's kind of how I've been feeling about it recently. Which, let me be clear, Immortal Empires is not a turd, but I think you get the analogy. It still needs a lot of work, and AI behavior and siege battles are at the top of my list. Thankfully, CA is well aware of that, and will be looking to address it to an extent in 3.1, and further into the summer and winter when Shadows of Change drops as the third major DLC. On par with Champions of Chaos in terms of content, this update will focus on Tzeentch, Cathay, and Kislev all in one fell swoop, which is a very welcome change from the two faction lord packs we had in Warhammer 2, because it means both base game order factions will be getting love at the same time, and we won't have to wait another 5 or 6 months to get them both up to speed. Tentative speculation here, I think this update will include the Changeling for Tzeentch, the Monkey King for Cathay, and Mother Ostankia for Kislev to improve the demonic and fantasy elements of all three rosters. Cathay, for me, is the faction that stands the most to gain from this update. They're in a decent spot on the campaign map, their homeland is gorgeous and beautifully crafted. If we look at it purely from a visual perspective, I think Cathay in Immortal Empires is maybe the best work they've ever done on the campaign map, except with the potential of 3 kingdoms. I've mostly had a good experience every time I played as them, but their unit roster is simply lacking in the fantastical flair and mystery that I wanted to see on launch, and I think the addition of the Monkey King and his entourage will be a huge help on that front. The framework is there, it just needs more flavor, and CA has a solid track record of improving rosters and creating fun lords in this manner, so that's what I expect here. Onyx Crowmen, Monkey Warriors, Guardian Lions, Tigermen, and a whole host of mythical creatures could all be on the agenda. I do expect Tzeentch to be somewhat secondary in this DLC. They've already received one major update with Champions of Chaos, which gave them access to Village and a host of mortals, but now is the time to start rolling out the Heralds and the more demonic elements, and the Changeling is the logical choice to take on the Trickster that is the Monkey King. They're kind of 2 peas in a pod. From a unit perspective, there aren't a crazy amount of demonic troop choices still left, although I do trust CA's ability to dive into deep lore and get creative, but I think that's one major reason why they're one of 3 factions in this DLC, not 2. Might have been hard to give them 6 or 7 units that were all exciting and fun, but 2 or 3 cool new demon units, casualty replenishment and economic improvements on the campaign side, and some fun Tzeentch mechanics that push the changing of the ways even further, and I'll be happy. As for Kislev, and in keeping with the theme, this is the best opportunity to roll out the mythical creatures of the Motherland. Mother Ostankia the Crone, her chicken-legged hut, frost fiends, hawks of Mishka, and other creatures of the forest. Just like Cathay, we have a good baseline for the mortal and regimental side of the Kislev roster, but it needs more flavor and fun. It needs more Warhammer flair, and I think all told, this could be a great lineup and DLC if they focus on the more fantastical elements this time around. As for patch 4.0 itself, free legendary hero, campaign AI improvements, and ongoing settlement battle improvements are the big ones for me, and all of those are listed, so gotta wait to see what those changes are actually gonna entail, but on paper, sounds awesome. I'm not gonna bother speculating about any of that yet. We expect a mid-July or early August release date for Shadows of Change, then patch 4.1 will drop sometime in the fall, likely around September 1st. But winter 2023 is the next major party in our Pantalones, with Thrones of Decay, a DLC that will bring content for Nurgle, the Empire, and the Dwarfs. From an old world perspective, this is a brilliant move. The Empire is still the most popular race in the trilogy by a country mile. Karl Franz is still by far the most popular lord, so an update for them, though inevitable, we knew it was coming at some point, is still very much welcome, and in fact is actually a little bit earlier than I anticipated. And Dawi fanboys will be champing at the bit for a unit roster update too, as two of the OG Warhammer 1 races take on the armies of the Plague God Nurgle. That is a fun matchup, and it has some big-time lore implications as well. As we know, Kugath Plaguefather hates the Dwarfs more than any other race, so there's already some enmity and built-in rivalry there. More importantly, after the Chaos Dwarfs, a race fleshed out in Throne of Chaos, this might just be the perfect opportunity to unleash Tamarkan and Elspeth von Draken, with a Theodore Bruckner legendary hero riding his Demigryph Reaper. This is a bit of a tough one though, because thematically, Tamarkan is the logical choice because of his built-in rivalry with the Empire and his huge battle versus Elspeth and her great Carmine Dragon. But as we stated above, Demon Lords and Heralds are the part of the Chaos rosters missing at the moment, so it's entirely possible, maybe even probable, that Epidemius, the Herald of Nurgle, will be the Lord choice instead. But at least for Nurgle this coming winter, and to keep the theme consistent, I'd be fine with delaying Epidemius, because I think Tamarkan offers more, and he's more thematic for a DLC like this one. He would ride his mighty toad dragon Boobalos, boobs, focusing heavily on momentum and vassalization, building a powerful confederation with which to assault the old world. Could maybe start him on the blasted plateau of Kadatha, in a similar area of the world to where Zathan the Black currently resides, so in the wastes north of the Darklands. And as for the Empire, this would be a gunpowder update with some knightly valor thrown in for good measure. Elspeth von Draken on her Carmine Dragon, Lore of Deathcaster with powerful melee capabilities, Theodore Bruckner, the Titan Headsman, and his huge Demigryph mount, Nolan Ironsides, Hawkland Long Rifles, maybe a new artillery piece, and perhaps an expansion of the Knightly Orders with a campaign start in Wissenland. Might even be a good time to hit up that Celestial Huracanum. And then for the Dwarfs, perhaps time to unleash the Tier 5 Thunder Barge and some big-time heavy hitters over there. Malachi Makaisen, the Slayer Engineer, and the Goblin Hero could be the next Lord. Perhaps most interestingly about Thrones of Decay is the addition of the Nemesis Crown, an old item of power forged 2,500 years ago by one Alaric the Mad. You might remember him. He's a flawed genius and obsessive runesmith that was actually responsible for forging the 12 rune fangs of the Empire, as well as a great and terrible artifact that he hid from the world. This was the Nemesis Crown, an unholy creation that would draw evil from its wearer and reshape it into a weapon, forcing out maleficence from even a courageous bearer. And once rumors spread of its power, and it was rediscovered in the current timeline after the Storm of Chaos campaign, it had its own campaign where multiple factions all battled for control of it. Think of the Nemesis Crown as the old world's version of the Sword of Cain, the MacGuffin of the playthrough, if you will. I think it will be a free LC available to everyone in Immortal Empires that will confer some powerful advantages and serious drawbacks, and all three lords in Thrones of Decay will be battling to wield or hide it away. Pretty exciting and flavorful setup here if they can nail it, which they typically do with DLC. But honestly, it's entirely possible this won't be the Tamarkan rivalry at all, and it could just as easily be Midland and the Knights of the White Wolf, Boris and Tübingen Guard versus Epidemius and a demonic host. A Cult of Ulrich update for the Empire. while certainly not as thematic or tied to Nurgle as Nuln is, would make me even happier, I think, because it's the part of the Empire that interests me most and has some of their coolest units. I'd expect Thrones of Decay to launch in late November or early December, right before Christmas. After that, patch 5.1, then we're on to 2024, and all of us have grown old and gray by this point. In spring, March, or April, and a full year after Chaos Dwarfs, we'll be looking at Slaanesh and 2 unannounced races. I do expect the Mask of Slaanesh to be the Lord choice for the Dark Prince, as the Herald and remaining named character in the Demons of Chaos 8th edition army book, but Dakala the Denied One, the Slithering Snake Lady of Ulthuan, could steal the spotlight as well. I will say, I sincerely hope that this spring 2024 DLC will also contain Ogre Kingdoms as one of the updated races, because of every single race in Immortal Empires right now, I think they are most in need of content and overhauling. They are almost certainly in the worst shape of any race in the trilogy right now, owing to their pre-order status, their small roster, some god-awful and undercooked campaign mechanics, and 2 mediocre lords. The character traits are garbage, their contracts are horrendous, Greasus is a fat piece of crap, Scrag is okay but not really great, Ogre camps are a cool idea that definitely needs some work. It's a camp, you should probably be able to move them, even if that ability is limited in some way. They need a better contract and mercenary system that is lucrative and worth using. They can sell their services to the highest bidder and fight battles for other factions. And of course, their roster definitely needs fleshing out. Thunder Tusks, Yetis, Bruisers, a better selection of Man-Eaters that more accurately reflects the fact that they go all over the world. So some Nippon Ninja Man-Eaters, some Arabian ones. There's a bunch of cool ideas that we've seen for models online before, even official ones from Games Workshop. I don't think they should all look like Sartosan pirates, and perhaps the armored elite of the Ironskin tribe and their Lord Gark would be very welcome here. Would better flesh out the Mountains of Morn and areas surrounding the Darklands. Gark Ironskin, of course, famous for his demonic mechanical Rhinox and heavy armor, owing to his allegiance with the Dawi Zar. Either way, ogres are not in a good spot right now, and waiting 3 or 4 years for them to become decent from a campaign perspective is not a particularly palatable situation. I do not want a repeat of that from earlier in the trilogy, when pre-order races were forced to languish in disrepair for inordinate amounts of time. I think we can hit them up earlier this time around, get them up to speed, and I think that'll make people pretty happy. So that is the roadmap for now. Obviously, it's a bit lacking on specifics, but there was still a lot to glean from this image, and it appears there's a lot to look forward to into 2024 and beyond. I am excited for what the future holds in store. I just hope that the core issues currently affecting the combined campaign continue to get better as we move forward. Because while paid content and DLCs are nice and fun, and I almost always enjoy them, the base game still has a long way to go, and I have faith it will get there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Any Pride, signing out for now. Have a good one, guys.